You're in the GEKKO estate. Welcome to episode 1 of the GEKKO estate. This one's about, what's the word I used?
Undulate?
Undulating. Let's talk about market undulation. Gaze upon my massive collection of dead old media. Once upon a time, the only way that we knew how to allow people to play music of their own choice in their own home was on records made out of vinyl. You had to go and purchase these, and you had to have a record player. You had to have the little needle, you put it on there, and it reads the grooves in the record, and it translates that into sound. They got better and better sounding over time. They made turntables, you could have two, you could mix them together. They made stereo audio so that they could have it so, like, you know, different stuff comes from different directions and shit. It's pretty cool. But eventually, we figured out there were more ways that you could listen to music. We invented ways that were more portable. And this was convenient because it meant people could walk around with their music and have it on them, you know, in the form of a jukebox or a Walkman, portable headphones. Headphones kept getting smaller. You know, then we could put it in our car. As we're talking about CDs, it's these ones up here. The little fucking, the ones with the shitty little cases that break easily. But you see, the point of CDs was that they were more convenient. That's why we switched to them, because they suck compared to vinyl CDs as a collector item. Vinyls had such a long time in the spotlight as the primary way of buying music that there was a lot of time to experiment with the way that they were released. It's such a huge canvas. You've got this big open sleeve that you can stuff whatever the hell you want into. They usually come with extra stickers or cards, advertisements for the record label, telling you stuff about similar music. Maybe it'll have like a card that tells you all the live shows that the band's going to perform that year or something. And I mean, you can stuff some of that into CDs, and some of them, my God, some of these companies eventually figured out they could stuff you a fuck ton of ads inside of a popular album from like Roadrunner Records or something like that, where you would get like a fucking brochure of like 100 other metal albums if you bought one. But, you know, with the record, it looks amazing. It's a piece of art. Album covers really mattered. Once you had CDs and it's in a dinky little case, it's like, yes, this is more convenient, but it doesn't look as good. Also, it doesn't quite sound as good, but, I mean, you can listen to it in your car. That's what matters here. Oh my God, my legs are getting fucking tired. I need a chair. I need to not do this squatting. I'm gonna go get that little stool that's out of the fucking other room. Here's a new object. This was left to us by the people who used to own the place. The people we're renting it from. Oh, this is perfect. Let me just adjust the camera. We're learning as we go here at the GEKKO estate. So CDs are convenient. Eventually, we figure out how to make shit digital. Now you can put it on your computer. Now you have not need to carry around a bunch of CDs and a fucking big-ass case of them in your car, or like 80 tiny jewel cases like my cousin had, where he would have like he would just burn CDs en masse, like download albums off the internet, then burn them to discs, then have like 80 jewel cases of them stuffed in all the pockets everywhere in his car. And then eventually, you know, he bought one iPod Touch and got to have a clean car for the rest of time. So, obviously, digital music's a huge advantage. But this leaves the question of, what is the actual value of music? This was never really a question before because we could base it on the value of the materials. We could just set a sort of general price that made sense, like most vinyl records cost somewhere between $20 and $30. You're almost guaranteed going to pay that amount. It might depend on the weight of the vinyl. It might depend on how, many discs there are, or if it's a gatefold, if it's like a really expensive paper used or something. Like, there are variables, but generally you pay more for higher quality, and you pay less if it's just one black disc inside of a paper sleeve. But if you bought a CD, you'd have a similar story. Like, there's the little slip cases. Some people just package it in a piece of paper. I remember buying CDs off of some of my online friends that are just, like, in a hand-folded envelope, basically. In fact, I've made some of those for my own CDs. So yeah, you could sell them for cheaper or more expensive, but generally CDs costed like $12. My whole childhood, $12 for every CD I bought. And because of the fact that in order to distribute physical media to a large enough, range of people, you would need a large corporation backing you. Most artists had to be signed to a label to really get their name out there. You had to have some kind of major company backing you who's going to, put your music onto physical releases and get those releases into stores. And unfortunately, it's expensive to get it into all stores. And if you want to be listened to by the widest amount of people, you need to be in the widest number of locations. If your album is sold at Walmart, you got good bets that people are going to be able to find it because there's Walmarts everywhere in America. But if you're only sold at, like, random, independent record stores across the country, that, something like that's not going to exist in small town USA where there's not enough diehard music fans to justify building a store there. So, this is why people generally are trying to make the most accessible music possible in order to turn a profit, because if you only can appeal to a very small niche audience, then you need to be kind of their favorite in the whole world, and having such a close relationship with an audience is in itself a dangerous kind of game. I think a big part of why so many people want to be extremely famous, who want to be broadly famous, is because famous people get to live in a different world. Famous people don't have to have a community because everyone knows about them, and it's not really like that they have to communicate with their fans. Fans don't expect to be able to reach a celebrity. Their mail is filtered. They don't, they might, I don't know, do a press meet every now and again or something, or they'll be reported on in magazines, but as legendary creatures off in the distance. And, that is a comforting sort of realm to be in for people who don't fit in with society and want to just, live a lavish life by themselves, somewhere where they have complete control over their environment and can do whatever they want. But that's why people want to be that kind of celebrity. But, if you can make art and just appeal to a small community, you just have to participate in a community. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to accept other human beings and to work with them in order to, cultivate an environment that you would want to be a part of, for your artwork to be released in. Audacity is fucking up hardcore. What the fuck is going on? Okay, I had this whole mic setup thing going on here. That you didn't hear any of it. You have not heard any audio from that because it crashed really bad and scared the living shit out of me because I thought my computer was going to explode. About 10,000 windows opened up. I need to update my technology, in fact. Let me go get my glasses. So anyways, in the internet age, because we can now do MP3 downloads and shit, you can just support artists directly. If artists have smaller communities, they don't need to have physical releases. They don't need to have a label pushing them out into the world. They can just be popular with a small group of people. The problem is, nobody knows how to find those people. The biggest reason that all these small-time artists have been even trying to, find a way into having a label or having some place in the infrastructure that existed before the internet is because we have not built a new infrastructure to deal with the internet. We are still relying on the paradigms of the old models. We still don't know how to promote ourselves or how to organize promotion of ourselves in order to gain that initial audience that we need in order to become, these sort of niche entertainers. And of course it raises the question for anybody, if you're trying to grow that audience, am I worthwhile? Like, is it that my stuff's not good enough, or is it that the right people aren't seeing it? Is it that it's not getting out there? And it can be difficult, especially when you see the reactions to your work and feel like it's not necessarily being understood the way that you anticipated, or that like the kind of people who are engaging with it aren't really the kind of people that you thought would enjoy it in the first place. So then you find yourself with the question of like, well, how do I find those people? And the internet has congregated people in a massive way over the course of the last decade or so of social media advancement. Back when I was young, I grew up on the internet. I've been on forums since 2001. You went to individual websites for the most part and like had to just know what things were good. Like, you had to just know about like a webcomic and then go type in the URL of it and go read it. But now you would probably have a feed. You would probably just follow the webcomic author on Twitter, and then you'd be able to just click a link to go to their page every time. Or they probably have a YouTube channel now, because YouTube really expedited this process by having such a clean subscription feed, which they're now about to fuck up forever, so good riddance. They made it so it was so easy for people to just have this constant drip feed of entertainment from their subscription feed and from whatever YouTube would recommend them of related content, that it made it so people would just want to spend all their time on websites like YouTube or Twitter, or just sites that just give you so much content just on this one site that you don't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to type in a URL of, say, like The Escapist. I've always had Escapist magazine as a bookmark on my bookmarks bar because I'm a huge fan of Yahtzee Croshaw. I've been watching Zero Punctuation since 2007, and like, I used to just go to the site every time and watch the episodes. Eventually they got put onto YouTube, and I think that's where most people watch the show, is on YouTube, but just because I've always had it in my bookmarks, I've always gone to the actual page. But like, people don't have to do that. Everything is coming to you. Everybody tried to come to social media. Everybody put social media links on their blog. Everybody made it so you could track back to Twitter. Everybody made it so everything you post will automatically post to your social media. But unfortunately, this was not a sustainable model. This was just us trying to figure out what the fuck to do, but it didn't really work because it didn't really help people grow. The only way that people eventually figured out how to grow was by figuring out how the algorithms worked on YouTube and on different social media sites, and then gaming the algorithms. It's pretty easy to realize, like, if you've been paying attention to the YouTube analytical sphere, literally everyone has been explaining how this shit works from the beginning. Go watch CGP Gray's video, This Video Will Make You Angry, where he talks about the different emotions that spread fastest through people, and how, like, if you can incite people to be mad about something, then you'll get your message to spread faster. And that's why there's so much political, factionalizing on Facebook, is because that stuff gets lots of attention and lots of clicks. It gets people to respond quickly before even thinking, because they get angry. And that's why it became such a toxic environment that nobody wants to fucking be on anymore. But here's the thing. Eventually, people, realized that. Like, this is how things work. Things constantly evolve. Things are always changing, but it feels like every step of the way, people will get locked into the groove and just kind of expect things to continue this way. And I feel like not enough people are able to see the tide changing before it actually happens. Too many people find themselves only after the event has started and they have the empirical proof that this is what's going on, is when they start to adapt. And as a result, they can never ride the wave. You need to be ahead of the curve to catch the zeitgeist as it transitions, And if you're paying attention to what especially young people on the internet are saying, and they're the most important people to keep in mind because of the fact that A, they're the up-and-coming voices who are going to be hungry, who are going to be producing the most content the fastest, who are going to be the most important and aggressively rising voices on the internet. And these people are going to be, directly in contact with the people slightly younger than them, influencing them forward. What all the young creators who I follow, who are sort of a part of the, the communities that I'm a part of, like, seem to have this mentality that they are really fucking sick of this type of content, this type of, like, systematized, searching for algorithm success content. They don't like that stuff because they can see through it because it's talked about so much. Because I've been talking about it for 4 years. Because Matt Pat explained it like every step of the way. He made his video about why PewDiePie was a success, and then we just all did that. Like, we just, literally every YouTuber watched this video and then just did this thing. Because he told us that's what we had to do. So we did it. That's why I started making such frequent content, That's why I chased whatever was being preached as, like, this is what YouTube audiences want. Because surely the reason this is so successful is that it's what the audience wants, right? And I think for a time it was, because it was new and fresh, but it got old. It quickly got old, because we quickly realized that a guy sitting in his room playing video games only has so much to say. And you can only keep repeating yourself so many times before people are going to get sick of it. And younger people are going to grow up and have better things to do. And you're competing with, other media. Netflix is by far the biggest entertainment media, them and the Disney Marvel sphere. Like, that is what owns public consciousness. And, like, we YouTubers have to compete with that, and no one YouTuber can compete with that at all. YouTube as an entire entity can barely compete with Marvel, I think. Like, it's overwhelming how embedded those movies are into public consciousness. But, like, that's what we have to fight against, and we are still operating inside of these paradigms of people who existed before us, instead of, like, inventing our own ways that we can cultivate communities and find a new source of engagement in the future. This collection of vinyl records that I have is the result of me participating in a fad that I believe is rapidly dying. And this fad was the result of the fact that for my generation, we grew up collecting media. We grew up, like, buying, if you're someone like me who grew up with manga and grew up with otaku culture, like, you were meant to continually buy things and collect things and amass this collection because you were actually going to watch your DVDs and read your manga, and you were going to have a sort of intimate relationship with the media. But because this media is so inconvenient, and, like, I still prefer to read manga in physical form, but, like, with anime, I'd much rather just load up a file on my computer. Like, it's infinitely easier. I don't really have a romantic view of DVDs because they're kind of just a hassle. And especially with all the ads that all the ways that companies took advantage of the format to fuck with you, are something that I think hurts the art, honestly. Like, when I have to spend 20 minutes fucking loading up Ponyo on the Disney DVD that doesn't let you skip the fucking bonus features, it makes the experience worse. Or skip the trailers, rather. However, because of the fact that there is that tinge of the romantic relationship with this old media, and we entered a state where, because of Bandcamp and the way that it framed music buying, that you could either pay the amount the artist was asking or just whatever you want above that. So say the artist would say $10 minimum, but pay what you want. And then this raised this sort of question in fans' mind where they had to say, okay, well, how much is an album worth to me? And it's a weird sort of relationship, because oftentimes you would probably buy the album off of Bandcamp early on so that you can listen to it. And the fact that Bandcamp started implementing this thing where they don't let you listen to it more than a certain amount of times before you have to buy it, I think is really stupid, because it defeats the point of this, where you can develop a relationship with the album through listening to it over and over again, and then decide how much you want to pay for it after a little time has passed, and maybe you feel you've developed such a strong relationship that you owe more to the artist. But of course there's other ways to spend money on an artist, if they have any kind of merchandising, if there's any other way to, if you could just fucking send them money on PayPal if they have a PayPal link. But like, because of this idea that you could spend more money on something you really cared about, and then perhaps be rewarded with an even better version of the product, this is why vinyl came back. Because in this era of MP3s where music was becoming intangible, and it felt strange to just like, for people like me, granted, like, I think most normal people were just out there buying whatever singles they like off of iTunes, but like, for the sort of, you know, other people who are into fucking weird music and shit, and who have like a romantic view of it, who are struggling with the idea of abandoning physical media, like, here is something that lets you show your love on an even greater level. You get to have the full-size print. It's like a poster. You can hang it up or something. Of course, once you actually own them, you realize it's a pain in the ass to actually do anything with vinyl, because they have to stand up. You cannot lay them down, and like, you don't want to like thumbtack them to the wall because you don't want to damage the thing. So what the fuck do you do with it? So anyways, you know, I own a bunch of them, but I never listened to them. I don't think most of the people who participated in this fad did, and that's why eventually it's sort of started dwindling. It's on the downturn, I think, and I don't expect it to be around for much longer, because I think that our generation is very practical, and we've had to be, as people my age have finally left their parents' houses, you know, and started to move on into the world. They've become frugal and thrown, like, most of my friends sold their entire collections before they moved out of their parents' houses. I don't know a lot of people who've continued carrying their shit around, and the only reason I've been able to is that I spent so long before I moved out that I bought a place where I could hold all of it, you know, and I had a pretty stable career before I even left. So, you know, I just don't think that this is, like, something that is sustainable, because what we fucked up by doing was just going back to the old thing. Like, why go back to vinyl when it's not a medium that anyone, like, it's a hassle. It's a hassle to do, and there is a romanticized view of the act of listening to it, that you hear the hum, and like, there's quality differences, and there are quality differences. Like, it's not necessarily that one is better or worse, just that they do sound different sometimes. But like, why go in that direction instead of trying to find a new paradigm entirely? It could be a new physical product, or it could be something different, something more participatory in the relationship with the artist over the course of a long term. Because if you're someone, again, with a niche fan base, then you need to foster that kind of community. And like, when you look at what Patreon encourages, for instance, putting people's names in the credits of videos, like, that's something that is totally different from, like, there's no physical product, but you're in the art, you're in there, and like, if you continue to pay for it, you see yourself every single time. And I've, you know, been in the credits of, I was in the credits of like every Monkey Jones video for like 2 years, you know. I know that feeling, and it is like kind of a cool feeling to see your name in there and be like, yeah, that's right, I fucking made this possible, you know. So I really think that stuff like that, as we've come to realize that you can do things like this with music. My friend, Just Fern, who I've, you know, promoted extensively on this channel because I really love her music, and I really am interested in the direction she's taking with her self-promotion. Most of last year, she was trying to get signed to a regular label, and she was pitching herself to all these different people, and she still is to some extent, you know, in the vain hope, but all she kept getting was, like, people, you know, sort of wishy-washy waiting around, and she was like, look, I could be growing my brand right now. Like, I could be working. I could be pumping out music, because she's someone who constantly has ideas, and if you follow her Patreon, there's just, like, demos and stems and random recordings, like, all the time coming out. You really feel like you're in the studio with her, like watching this album come together as you know, literally see the pieces as they get released. And like, for someone who used to be a lot more precious about her music and used to be more guarded with it, not wanting people to see it before it was complete, although she would send like stems to friends and stuff all the time, but like, now that she's gone all in on sort of like embracing this community element of like, all right, well, you know, you're my fans, this is my Patreon, we're in this together, you get to see the stuff as it comes out, and like the lyrics have been more personal and more heartbreaking than ever before. So like, this is the approach that I think is where people want us to go. And I know a lot of people don't want to open up because when we open up is when we allow ourselves to get hurt. And you know, a lot of the drama that I've been a part of on the internet is just because of people opening up to each other. It's just people who put trust in someone for a little while, revealed something, you know, personal about themselves, had their trust betrayed, and then, you know, like, now they have to suffer the social consequences of that, and of having an enemy, you know, an enemy in the public space. And like, God knows I've got plenty of them. I've got a laundry list. I got a what's the word for having like a lot of, like, you're bad guy. But while you're gonna make enemies, you're also gonna make people care about you more and find allies who can be on your side. And the more honest you are, you know, the more that people are gonna understand you and be able to communicate and be able to help you better. But I mean, it's not a paradigm that necessarily works for everybody, and I hope that it's not just in this direction. Like, I personally want some distance between me and my audience, because like, even though I like talking to people and I like being participatory in it, like, for me, a lot of younger people ask a lot of time. You know, like, people who are lonely and sad, and like, I really understand, because I was in that position when I was fucking a teenager. Like, I had all the time in the world, and all I did was hang out on Instant Messenger and talk to people, and like, I demanded a lot of attention from older people. Like, my friend Ghost Lightning, who I always like describe as my mentor, like, from my perspective, he was someone who like he was like my best friend in the anime blogging world. But like, from his perspective, I was just one of many bloggers that he was close friends with. Like, he, you know, was a lot more popular than me, a lot older than me, had a lot more social connections than me, was doing bigger work on a bigger scale with other people than he was with me. Like, he and I did collaborative projects, and I was very proud of those. And I remember feeling back then that like, I always felt like he didn't embrace me as like a partner as much as I wanted him to, in the way, but like, he was also working with tons of other people. So like, it was just that kind of selfishness on my part as being a young person who doesn't really understand like how big the web of responsibilities for an adult are. Like, how much shit you have to do in a day if you aren't just someone who goes to school and fucking that's it in your life, you know? Like, I feel like school kids, you have this mentality, and this is including myself, and not everybody obviously feels this way. If you don't, then if you've probably listened to other people talk about this and you have perspective. But like, you know, a lot of people who are younger, they seem to think that like the 7-hour school day is equivalent to the 7-hour work day, and like, you know, we both work just as hard. But like, as an adult, there's just all these ticking clocks that are above your head at all times, of just every little thing that needs to get done or fixed or accounted for or taken care of or digitally signed or paid for. And just like, you know, the overhead is what makes it so your mind can no longer just be like, here is my brain at school, here is my brain at home. No, now your brain is just constantly working on everything, and there's no stopping it. And if you are someone who, you know, who sets aside time to just relax every day, I think is what you know, a lot of people do, because they're not working on anything outside of their, you know, regular work day. Even those people are using that relaxation time because of the fact that it would fucking destroy their mind to work any harder than they already are, basically. So I think that that's that's all fine and good. I don't know why I just said that sentence. Look, fucking ad break. What am I gonna make from an ad break? This video is probably gonna get like 5,000 views. I could put an ad break in the middle here and milk $5 from my most hardcore fans, the only people who really care, who are gonna watch a fucking hour-long video that I put out every fucking day. They're the only ones who are gonna give a shit. I am not hitting you guys with a fucking ad. You guys are probably my patrons. $1 on Patreon will make me more than you will ever make me watching ads. $1 through PayPal. You can open up your PayPal, type send to digitalboyreviews@gmail.com and send me $1 and it will make more than you would have ever made watching ads on my channel. Because it's infinitesimally small. And personally, I won't watch ads. I have always had ad block on YouTube. I refuse to watch it on mobile because it drives me fucking insane. I fucking hate ads. I don't watch TV because I don't watch commercials. I can't deal with it. I can't fucking live in the reality. Ads make me feel like I live in a dystopia. Ads make me feel like everyone's fucking retarded. Ads make me feel like I'm like I'm in the movie They Live. Everyone says that, but like I actually feel it. And I haven't even seen the movie, but I still feel that. When I look at ads, they drive me fucking insane. And the thought that I need them it feels wrong to think. And the reason I was so attracted to them in the early days, if you read my Patreon back before I updated it, it used to say like, unfortunately I can't run ads. Like, I would prefer that it was all just ads and you guys didn't have to pay, because the mindset I had at the time was I don't want my fans to have to ever spend money on my shit. Like, I wanted nothing I did to ever be gate kept. You know, I wanted it all to be freely available. I wanted everything to be out there, and like no one would ever have to spend any money, because I never wanted to have to feel like I disappointed anybody. I never wanted anybody to feel like they gave me my money and I didn't give them exactly what they wanted. So I was like, I'd rather just have big faceless corporations just send me random checks in the mail that I don't understand where they come from, and this is all just a fantasy illusion dream where my money comes from, you know? And to work with companies and to work with people so that my fans would always never have to pay for anything. And again, this goes back into that celebrity idea that I talked about in the proper vlog, that you can be distant and above it all and never have to confront the humanity of what you do. But like in the end, you should, because it's the most interesting thing about the content you're making, and it's where you're going to learn the most. You're going to learn the most about the world and about people through interacting with them, through continuing the conversation that you start with your content. If every week you put out a video and that is who you are, you're just a machine that makes videos and the interaction with your fans doesn't really matter, then like, what are you learning? How are you growing? What is changing about you as a person? Like, you need more. And so I have learned that over the years, you know, and because of the fact that ad revenue has always been so unreliable, whereas, you know, developing a relationship with people, like, if I can live up to the expectations I set for myself, which is always a challenge to me, and I like that challenge, then I can continue to live the lifestyle that I want, and I can continue to, like, have a good relationship with my fans. And, like, I've been somebody who has skipped out on plenty of Patreon rewards, you know, like, I've been somebody who's missed lots of stuff. My content has changed in ways people didn't expect or want. I've always been like, you guys just gotta take it or leave it. Like, it is what it is. I'm not perfect at doing this because it is a hectic fucking job. It is something where one person is trying to run a whole lot of different ideas way outside the breadth of what normally one person can do by themselves. And his methods for trying to make it unique or to, you know, give it an extra edge, uh, are scattershot and experimental and not always functional, and you're gonna have to just be along the ride for all kinds of shit. And for some people, it's gonna get old, and sometimes because I have more things going on in my life than making YouTube videos, sometimes I can't even really focus on it. And that's kind of been the case for a lot of the last year. I just changed so much about my life that I never was able to just 100% be thinking about, like, what am I trying to do? Like, what am I trying to do as an artist? And I think it took this sort of burrowing state of consuming massive amounts of both YouTube history and present, you know, learning about what other people were doing, learning about what is the state of the medium, what are the young people looking for, what's going on. I've drawn certain conclusions, and I'm, you know, gonna barrel headlong down the road into destiny, and we'll all see where it goes. Maybe I'll crash and burn in a fiery inferno. I don't think it's likely, though. I've made it pretty far. And, you know, I'm in a cool place now, too. Lately, I've just had so much to rant about. I've had so much to say. I've had so much on my mind that I can't tame it. If you listen to the show that I do on Corrupting Your Kids, which, for those who don't know, Corrupting Your Kids is a channel that me and my fiance, Pantsu Party, run together, where we do all kinds of weird, goofy stuff. And currently we've been knees deep in this Bloodborne playthrough where we do episodic, like, podcasts. Basically, each episode is meant to be a single topic podcast, but in the early episodes, all the ones that have been released as of this recording, which is the first 9, it ended up just being so scattershot and random because we didn't really understand what we were trying to do with the series yet. It was kind of started up as just a way to get back into doing Let's Plays and, like, find a new way to do it. And I kept insisting that it's not a Let's Play so that we would explore different ways of doing it, so that it would develop in another direction, and it eventually did. We've recorded like 30 of them, but you know, May wants to really, like, focus on actually editing them and making sure that they are tight and entertaining and that people will actually want to watch it. And, like, you know, also, like, it takes forever to render each of them on the laptop. So, yeah, that's why they've been coming out slowly. But the reason I'm talking about this is that this is an ad break. You are currently watching an ad break. The point I was trying to make about ads is that I hate all the products being sold on YouTube, even the ones related to my channel. Like, I remember the first time I ever saw an anime ad when I switched over to talking about anime, and on my Serial Experiments Lane videos, there was an ad for the new Funimation Blu-ray re-release, and I was excited about that. I thought it was cool that, like, an ad relevant to me was running there, and I thought it would be cool if people bought the show. But, like, I don't really like Funimation. I don't like their business model. I don't like supporting them. I don't like the way that they've... I mean, this is a company that has literally sued individual fans for, like, uploading single episodes of One Piece as torrents. Like, I don't... and who has continuously, especially in their early days of doing Blu-rays, was, like, you know, fudging the numbers on their specs and stuff. Just overall, like, unsatisfying releases. I hate their dubbing. I think the entire US dubbing industry, which is mostly propped up by Funimation, is garbage, and everyone knows it. Everyone outside of anime fandom, this is why they don't get into anime, because dubs are bad and you can't make fucking normies watch them because they get sick of hearing the gross voices. Like, it's a big issue. So, like, I don't want to support these companies because I don't want them around. So, like, the fact that these are the people shaving off the top of my income, like, why do I need to have a Crunchyroll sponsorship? I don't care about Crunchyroll. Like, I mean, I'm okay with them. I actually do use the service. I do pay for it, and I always have because, like, I think it's convenient. They have a great selection, and they do contribute in some way to the industry. I've, been to Crunchyroll Expo as a guest, met Miles, and like even if I think he's a fucking goofball of a human being, a very ambitious, very nerdy man. Nonetheless, I'm like okay with him being a figure in the anime industry alongside me. So like I don't hate Crunchyroll, but like why do I need to be promoting Crunchyroll? I, who am a guy out there saying like I think piracy is like overall okay. And like I just kind of want to participate in the community and be there and talk to the other people who are up there, but like why can't we just supplant them all? Like, put in new people. I'm tired of the people who are the fucking big talking heads in the anime community. And it's because there's not enough new people. Like, I've got my little subset of fans and freaks and people who think that my opinions are generally right about anime. We need more. And I've been really excited by this show called Chibi Bakas on the PCP, the Procrastinators channel, my podcast that I do with all my friends. If you're not familiar, you should be following it. It's exciting right now. We've got a lot of big plans for it, especially because all of the members of it are currently congregating here in the Boston metropolitan area, and we're planning to do a lot of big things together. And if you haven't seen all the RadCon 3 stuff that's come out so far, that's a load of fun, and there's a lot more of it to come. But anyways, this is an ad break. There's a show on the PCP channel called Chibi Bakas, which is Munchie and Hypocrite, both of whom know nothing about anime at all. They're completely new to the medium. They don't know any of the context. They don't know what shows are popular. The shows they watch, they don't really know what people think of these shows in general, even though they are old shows. And their choices are just based on like what they have personal interest in, having just gleaned it from maybe seeing something in one of my videos once that kind of caught their attention, So like this perspective is so unique because I watch so many anime videos, so many reviews where people are just like, here's what Reddit thinks of the show and here's my response to that. Like how many of my videos are framed as like responses to mal reviews or like to the culture of how people talk about anime. How many Mother's Basement videos are like direct responses to some commenter on Reddit he argued with or something, or like literally some argument he got into with Best Guy Ever about Welcome to the NHK becomes a 15-minute video somehow. Like, I fucking lost track of what I'm saying. Now I'm going to talk about this a lot more in episode 2 of the GEKKO Estate. I'm going to really break down my experience, working with some of these major companies like Crunchyroll, getting offers from Faku, going to Anime Expo, like all these places I've gone as a guest, all these experiences I've had trying to communicate with the anime industry, the YouTube industry, the entertainment industry in general, trying to follow the sort of carved out route that everyone seems to think is the way to go, the way that YouTubers tend to do, what it's like to work with, a loot box company or some random fucking endorsement deal. Like, what is all this shit like? Because the only reason I've participated in all this was to know what it's like. Because at no point did I ever take any of it seriously. The emails I sent people were always shitty and curt. I've been mean to everyone I've been in communication with. I drop deals like crazy. But, I don't feel bad because most of these people have attempted to fuck me over in some way. Or have turned out to be something weird. Studio 71 just takes my money every month and has never done anything for me. They're getting a huge fuck you in the next episode. All these, the Flying Colors Foundation, like, apparently is a scam and dissolves into thin air after, like, a few months of communicating and working together. And it's like, my experiences in this industry have led me entirely to think that none of it works. None of it's built correctly. And the people who thrive in it are people who just bust ass. Like, as much as I might make fun of Mother's Basement on this channel just because my fans make fun of him all the time, so it's really funny to me. You know, as much as I make fun of him, that dude busts ass. Like, he has videos out all the fucking time, and he has to make enough money to pay editors. He has crew. He has a bunch of editors. Like, you know, Lachlan was a longtime editor for Jeff as the day job of making videos twice a week. She busts ass. You know, like, these are people who are just, like, out there crushing it every day, just working at this because it's so important to them that they not have to work a normal job. That's just the most important thing. It's just like, I don't want to go back to work, I just want to be a YouTuber. But as everyone has thrown themselves into this tunnel, this wind tunnel of content, this constant grind, no one has stopped to introspect and ask them, where does this eventually go? If, you know, Jeff in the beginning was doing What's in an OP and eventually ran out of OPs, and the question became, where do you go from here? But in the early point of Jeff's career, he did not know where to go. I mean, I was talking to him for, like, most of the time he was making videos. So, like, I watched his trajectory as he went from somebody who was just doing What's in an OP, and he had this long-ass intro he would do at the start of every episode. He slowly weaned that out. He, you know, started varying his stuff. He started doing video game reviews because he had a background in that, but it never really caught on. He eventually got into just covering SEO-optimized stuff and just, like, whatever's popular. You know, hired a guy, pays him $600 a month to tell him what to make videos about, but he can find passion for it. Like, I make fun of him for this, but he is legitimately interested in these things. He likes doing this job. But I just have to ask of the sustainability, and, you know, I only bring him up because he's such a poster child in my mind for this, as somebody who literally brags about having an SEO, and the only, like, there was a conversation had in the car at Crunchyroll Expo that was really hilarious, where he was saying something about an SEO, and I asked, what is that? I literally didn't know what it was. It means search engine optimizer. So he's talking about having this SEO guy, and I said, what the hell is an SEO guy? And then, like, Miles from Crunchyroll, who's in the car, scoffs at me and is like, how do you not have one? You know? And I was like, hold on. I've never even heard of any YouTuber having this, because I don't participate in the corporate structure of the YouTuber world. Like, my friends are all, like, hardcore artists. Like, the people I collaborate with don't even have 100,000 subscribers for the most part. They're not even in the realm where they start getting the offers from these people who would want to do these things. And, you know, I've never moved on to be in that clique. So, and when I saw it, I didn't like what I saw, and I thought it seemed like a boring place where just a few people have managed to become somewhat famous, but there's no culture around it. There's no, like, community. And the funny thing about it is that the person with the most community is the fucking anime man. Because the anime man is like a, you know, daily vlogger type person with a strong sense of personality, with fans who probably genuinely care about him, who probably responds to at least some of his comments, and there is like an immense level of response to his videos. It's because of his pull that Flying Colors was able to do that enormous survey where they were saying, like, this was the biggest survey ever conducted of anime fans in the West. And, like, why wouldn't it be? The Anime Man has 1 million fucking subscribers. Like, what anime website has 1 million subscribers? You think 1 million people read Anime News Network? You know, like, there's no way. So, this is the bit that nowhere near 1 million people read fucking r/anime. Like, that's actually a really small niche community that, like, for some reason, a lot of people put, like, undue importance on because it is the biggest anime subreddit, but it's not even a big subreddit. It's got, like, less than 100,000 or less than 500,000 members. It's nowhere near big enough to be the biggest anime subreddit, and the reason it's not bigger is because it sucks dick. and no one likes it and no one wants to use it because it fucking blows ass, but there's no alternative and no one has just built a better one. This is the problem. There is no better one. There's no better anime community. There's no alternative to what's just been there since the late 2000s. You know, that's the deeply embedded cultures that no one's tried to uproot. And because of the fact that YouTubers, up until guys like me showed up, were so embedded in the culture of, like, old school shit where, you know, Arcata is writing mal reviews on YouTube, basically. But, like, what I did was brought Every Frame of Painting and YMS and, like, the film crit scene that was blowing up on YouTube that was very much a culture and all those people knew each other. I brought that to anime, but there was no scene for it. And I didn't create a scene for it because I hung back with the PCP, who are my guys, and I was like, fuck everyone else because I don't like other people. But, you know, this is why there is no like other anime community of people who are more on my sort of wavelength of thought. And there's been a lot of people who've asked me to make that. For a little while, the Digibro subreddit was kind of like that. But once I created my patron exclusive Discord, the subreddit got completely abandoned, especially by me. And then the Discord for a little while was kind of like an anime club for people who think like me, but then as that formed its own cliques and they splintered off and made their own Discord groups, it just became a dead wasteland. So now there still is no real anime community on the internet, and well, you know, there are real anime communities. There's no great anime community for people who watch anime YouTube. I love I love the A board on 4chan. Granted, I think 4chan is very hard to access for most people, so it's never going to be a huge community. But they reject identity, and they reject anime YouTubers like me. And I'm okay with that. That's part of their culture, but, like, I need to have my own place, you know? So, why is it that I've failed at this so hard? Straight up, it's because I fucking hate people. I just never wanted to have to deal with a large amount of people. I never wanted to have to be a community leader because being a leader is a lot of fucking time. And, like, I try to do a lot of work on my own. I have my own entire career to worry about. The reason that I never wanted to be the leader of the PCP and that I really, like, just kind of relinquished that over to Nate, because in the early days of the podcast, me and Nate were the ones who cared the most. We were the ones who were, you know, putting the most effort in. Hippo also was, like, always pretty invested from the beginning. But, like, eventually, as time went on, like, I wanted to get my own stuff done. So I was just like, Nate, this is your show. So that, like, I don't have to have the burden of organizing you guys every week and therefore taking away from the time I work on my own things. And I've just had that kind of approach to everyone, because I try to do so much stuff, but in the end, like, I've gotten so scattershot. Like, there needs to be some concentration, there needs to be some communication, and there needs to be some community, because at this point, nobody even knows what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I'll just phase away for weeks on end, and I'll come back and I'll say a bunch of vague shit about new shows I've got coming out. And now that Finish or Fail is finally out, I feel a huge weight off of my shoulders because, like, you know, it came out pretty much at exactly a month late, like, compared to when I intended it to come out. And everything I'd been doing since then was in that vein, in that style of, like, this new kind of editing mentality of splicing together my normal stuff that people like from me with some of my, like, you know, altered beast out there shit, but not in a way that it distracts from the point. Where, you know, I think my old vlogs were already very fucking out there, like the ones I did before I moved into the last townhouse I lived in. But unfortunately, that townhouse just had no fucking way for me to film in it. Like, I could only film in my office, and I couldn't do anything interesting with the camera, so it's like, I have to do interesting stuff in the... Alright, well, the fucking camera died because every time I open my mouth it turns into a 30-minute rant, and this fucking thing only lasts like an hour. But anyways, it just so happens that in the time that I was apart from the camera, I watched a Zen Huxtable video that gave me a great new example for how to explore talking about my failures as a community leader. Or even as just someone who communicates well with my fan base in general, which is really more what I'm getting at with this whole story anyways. Um, he talks about how Foley art is something that's really fascinating, but not enough people talk about it. And I've heard this sentiment echoed by lots of people. Anybody who cares about audio in film will talk about how underappreciated audio is, be it music, Foley, sound effects, or voice acting. No one does anything about it, though. And the problem is that the reason we now know about animators, like when I was first getting interested in anime creators, and I was like learning about the backgrounds of the shows I was watching, the main resource I had was I would just go to Anime News Network, and it just so happens that because this website has dedicated itself to cataloging the entire staff listing of every anime ever made, like, and I mean it's not complete by any stretch, but it's extensive. For me, I would, watch a show, go to its ANN page, see who worked on it, form connections between those, and that would give me a sense of who was making this anime. And therefore I could follow creators that I like in the same way that I might do somewhere like YouTube. Which is not necessarily the way that a lot of people even follow this medium at all. But it's just the way that I always engage with it because I've always been somebody who relates to very specific types of people. So, I've always followed it that way, but over time it's gotten easier and easier, and we know more and more of who's involved. And with Twitter making it so much easier to get in contact with certain people in the industry, we've had more information. But the fucking weird thing about it is that information has become explosively available, but is also unbelievably limited to just whoever is actually talking about themselves. Why don't we have any famous Foley artists? Because they're not talking about themselves. There's no Foley artist YouTube channel trying to make them celebrities. There's no one championing the cause of this stuff. And this is true for a lot of avenues out there. A lot of things that are niche, they remain that way because nobody's forming a hype around it, And for what it's worth, a lot of things will turn to shit if they grow. But a lot of things will also get better if they can grow. And, when it comes to super independent artists, it usually does help them to be able to make more money because of the fact that they can put more into what they do. But it also will probably lead them to not have to chase, success with the same hunger they did when they were younger and they didn't have the money. I've put myself in challenging positions by constantly putting myself at risk and throwing away lots of money or throwing away the static life I have to jump into a higher level of living situation and then have to catch up with myself and be like, well, now I gotta work for it. Now I have to earn this, and that makes it so I'll continually propel myself and, work my ass off every day. But if I were to, grow complacent in being rich or successful, or just having an audience that I could reliably have listen to my shit no matter if it's good or not, where when you reach the level of a band like, say, Opeth or Coheed and Cambria, to name some that I was once a fan of, who changed their sound dramatically and burned away a large section of their fan base, but just because they have enough fans who either will just happen to click with this or will apologize for it as fans, they can continue to do that. And, I think I started to enter the mindset of one of those creators a little bit in my last house because of the fact that I didn't have forward momentum while I was living there. Like, the plan was to stay in this place for 1 year. It was just a transitional house. We were really focused on trying to get PCPHQ happening. We were focused on trying to find a new direction for the content with all these changes in YouTube. And generally, I felt like this was not a place where I could really experiment that much, because I couldn't even fucking film outside of my office for the most part without having audio issues or without, disturbing the neighbors. So I just kind of I've always been really, really bad at self-promotion. I've always been really bad at, like, remembering to mention my Twitter in every video. I tweet every day. I'm on Twitter all the time. My tweets are fire. They get lots of love from the people who follow me, but I don't gain a lot of new Twitter followers because I never mention my Twitter. And, like, every time I do mention it in a video, it gains a shit ton of followers. So it's obvious that, like, if I were to mention it verbally in every video, it would be big. And that would have long-term benefits for me as a creator. But I've just never been diligent about putting it in every video because I rush through my videos. I just try to get them done. I don't try to think about the consequences of what they will mean for my career, what they will mean for the audience, what they will communicate. I just want them out. And sometimes I would even watch them back and think the video was confusing and release it anyways. And, I don't think that was, like, a healthy way to approach my content. And so that's why I want to make these GEKKO Estate videos very direct, very clear about the intentions. I'm going to explain, like, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why we're here, why life persists on planet Earth. This will be themes of this series. It's gonna come out all the time, and my promise to you is that if you were to go to my YouTube channel, the Otaku Gonzo Journalism channel, and I guess I'll put this on the front page of this channel as well, you will see a playlist called Every YouTube Video Featuring Digibro. I've promoted this playlist a lot. I usually have it at the end of my videos as, like, an end card. But if you follow this playlist from here on out, if you were to click on this playlist every day at exactly 7:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there will always be a video you haven't seen yet in the playlist from this day forward. That is the contract I'm signing in this advertisement. Why I felt I could waste so much of your time rambling about whatever random other ventures. I didn't even touch on all of my other channels. Nobody follows Digibro's Turntable, where I release all my music. I've got a fucking insane concept album in the works called The World Over. Some people are hype about it on my SoundCloud, but, I only have so many SoundCloud followers. I just don't promote this stuff well enough in my videos. So, here you go. Here's all the promotion in the world. Check this fucking playlist every day at 7:01 p.m. and there will be a video you have never seen in that playlist that you can watch and enjoy for the night. And, you can save up a few and watch them or whatever. Also, there will be other videos coming out, in the meantime. I'm not saying that there's going to be a new GEKKO Estate video in there every day. I'm just saying there will be a new video in there every day. But this will be a frequent series. This is not going to be like the Meta Hole or Insomnia Analysis, where it only came out every once in a while, because those were the best videos on Digibro After Dark, or have been. Like, all of the stuff that's in that style is what people have always resonated with the most. And because of the fact that I initially saw those as, like, the really out there stuff that, like, people wouldn't like the most, I tried to make it, like, a rare occurrence. But as it sort of grew to be, like, this sort of more revered sort of, like, history of my content, not even so much the Meta Hole as just the Insomnia Analysis videos, but, like, the Meta Hole is mostly lame because the house was lame. You know, this is stylistically the same kind of show, but I don't want it to be like a rare occurrence. I want it to be like this is the regular content on the channel. So basically what you're going to be getting on Digibro After Dark from here on out is the GEKKO State vlog series, as well as the Finish or Fail 2017 anime. I don't know why people think I canceled it. I never said anything of the sort. I've never canceled Finish or Fail before because I intend to watch every anime ever made. So the Finish or Fail never has a reason to stop. Finish or Fail 2018 will continue on the main channel alongside the How They Marketed series. So these are going to be like, each channel kind of has two flagships. The Turntable channel is going to be very focused on my music. I'm working on a documentary I've talked about probably too much. And I also have a lot of other shit in the works. So follow the Patreon. I changed all the Patreon tiers. I talked about that in another video, so you probably already know that. Alright, let's continue with the goddamn vlog. So to touch more on the subject of like the evolution of YouTube specifically, since that's pretty much the main realm that I'm in, you know, there's been a lot of doomsaying about YouTube's decisions, and I've been, you know, participant in it myself. But I think that there's been somewhat of a misunderstanding of the goals of YouTube, because when they make all these changes and they fuck everybody's whole shit up, everyone's like, how could you do this? You're ruining people's jobs, blah, blah, blah. But what they don't realize is that they have continuously failed YouTube. We have all continuously failed YouTube because YouTube has been supposedly never really profitable. It's always been an experiment. It's always been like a thing that is more beneficial that it exists than necessarily that it is profitable. I think for Google, I've heard a lot of arguments about like why YouTube exists, that, you know, that the idea that it is in the red forever is not necessarily like a wholehearted truth. But nonetheless, YouTube's never been a largely profitable venture. And it's never been super profitable for anybody who works on it either. Like, PewDiePie makes a lot of money, but he also gets the most unreal, like, he's a totally different breed. Like, he's nothing like, and you see all these YouTubers who go around driving the fancy cars and shit, but it's not necessarily because they actually make enough money to afford that. It's because they're bad with money a lot of the time, and a lot of those people fold, or they will fold soon, Hammer style, you know? But, and a lot of them are just doing other stuff under the table, or, you know, when you listen to like Joey Salads talk about like where his money comes from, it's obvious that like YouTube ad revenue is not his concern, and like YouTube itself is not his concern. He's working with higher powers than merely a guy who fucking comes up with ideas and makes a YouTube video real quick. Why does it sound like a missile's falling above us? Are we about to get nuked? Should we get down? So when you look at people who have been following the algorithm and just trying to be successful in the way that they understand, you know, someone like Ethan Klein, H3H3, he, you know, he got big because his videos would get posted to Reddit and were popular there, but like eventually he caught on with YouTube's audience, with YouTube's algorithm. He became a known figure. He's somebody who definitely has a big cult of personality behind him, a lot of support. You know, early on they had a Patreon, but eventually their ad revenue was so good they like closed it down and everything. But they seemed to have this expectation that it would just always be this way. You know, they built all their content around this algorithm, and now that it's changing, and now that monetization got slashed for everybody, which never affected me at all. Like, I literally made no less money from this whole monetization getting slashed thing. You know, I've been a full-time career YouTuber for 5 years now. No problem at all with YouTube. I almost never even get monetized, and I don't give a fuck. Like, my weird anime sex video, 150,000 views. That's $150 I could have had in ad rev at least. Whatever. Like, I don't care, because I just want to make the content I want to fucking make, and YouTube's the only platform where I can post the shit where anyone's gonna watch it at all. But, like, you know, when you have this mindset of, like, YouTube works this way, so that's the kind of content I have to make. And then YouTube changes, and you go like, YouTube's gonna fucking die. I can't believe that they're ruining subscription feeds, because they're finally doing it. They're taking away subscription feeds being chronological. They're gonna make it like everything else and make it a pain in the fucking ass. And on the one hand, everyone's like, oh, this will be the death of everything. This is the worst idea. But I'm like, it's not profitable, though. Like, if YouTube was profitable, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, this is terrible. But, like, if how it works now isn't working, then they're going to try to find another solution. Now, I don't think this is the right solution. I think there should be somewhere that you can have a chronological timeline of everything you follow. Because otherwise, someone's going to have to invent a feed for that. And then Google's going to have to replace their feed for that. And then they're just going to have to integrate it back into Google. You know, like, it used to be that Google made this thing called Google Reader. They used to have RSS feeds where if you followed a bunch of blogs, you could put the feeds for all those blogs into Google Reader, and it would have a page just listing all the blogs that you would follow. Extremely helpful, because we just want to not have to type the URLs every time we go to all of our favorite blogs, you know? But I still want to be able to go to the blog and look at it and see its unique identity if I want to do so. And Google has stripped that away they took away Google Reader, they made us all use either Plus or YouTube, they took away all customization of experience. You know, they made it so like the only uniqueness you can have is within the content, nothing about how you present it. And I think that was the beginning of this whole thing, and I have to thank them for it, because that's how my career got started. Like, I rode the wave. I rode the wave of, in 2013, when YouTube changed the site layout to emphasize subscriptions, and they made it so, like, subscriptions were the most important thing, and this idea of regular content, that you were a content provider who gave people the same thing every day, so they would keep coming back for the same thing, and that's what they really prized, and that's when Let's Plays were big, and that's when Game Grumps were God, and PewDiePie rose to, you know, to be the hugest in the whole universe. And, like, you know, the way I structured my content was always to follow that wave. But the wave is ending. Because YouTube no longer cares about content creators. They care about keeping people on YouTube. That's the shift that's being made. Because content creators were not reliable. We got boring. Most of us just made the same shit for years and years, and eventually people stopped clicking on it. When was the last time I clicked on a goddamn Mother's Basement video? I mean, I was still talking to the guy. You know, he was at my house probably. Like, most people's videos are boring. Most of them are just the same shit. And even mine, a lot of mine are boring. This is probably boring for a lot of people. A lot of you have heard me go on about all this before. I'm repeating myself ad nauseum because you can only do so much with a guy in a goddamn house ranting about his YouTube career. It's gonna get old for people. So we gotta start mixing it up. Like, it's on us. We fucked this up because we got boring and people aren't clicking anymore. And so what's YouTube going to do? They're going to go, well, fuck it. If they're not going to watch their own subscriptions, which, by the way YouTube handles subscriptions, as we've discussed in some other podcasts, but, you know, I'm just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page here. When you post a video, YouTube only pitches it to 10% of your subscriptions. Your subscribers, rather. And then the people who will watch all your shit is who they pitch it to. And if those people watch it, then they'll send it to the rest of your subs, like your less active subs. But if not enough of your initial sub base even watches it, they won't even send it to your whole fucking sub base. And this is why people will just have, like, you know, 100k subs and get 1k views on every video, because, like, if it doesn't break that initial barrier, it never even sees the light of day to... And this is just a random, you know, like, it's 10% of your power users, but it's still sort of a random 10%, and maybe they aren't the ones you're trying to appeal to. Maybe you have a multifaceted fandom who, you know, like, another category might come in for this video. You don't fucking know. But the point is, the algorithms are all broken, and they're no longer trying to help us as individuals. They're just trying to railroad people through as much shit as possible, and that's why they love all the Jimmy Kimmel shit. Emp Lemon's got a great video complaining about that. Again, there's a million videos. Like, everyone's explained all of this. Every step of the way, we've been tracking this evolution, but, like, somehow people still get in the mindset of, like, YouTube's fucking me over. YouTube is just trying to make itself make sense, because we are boring people, and we're not doing a good enough job. And, like, I know I have to improve, and I know the last year and a half has been really difficult for a lot of people, because we all do have to reinvent ourselves. We all do have to rethink the way we've been doing things, but, like, that is the nature of this platform. That is the nature of the sort of gift that we've been given, is that we are allowed to do basically whatever we want. And all we have to do is figure out how to make people give a fuck about it. But, like, the nature of how to do that changes continually, and we need to be adept if we want to survive. And personally, I like that the environment is like this, and I don't want YouTube to necessarily, like, have the perfect algorithm that everyone follows, because I hated what we were doing for the last couple years. I hate what YouTube's become from people trying to follow the algorithm, so I'm glad that it's fucked now. And I'm glad that you're all gonna have to actually work and figure things out for a change and find other routes to make money, you know? That's where we should be. I realize this whole GEKKO estate thing is all very sudden. A lot of new things are happening. I moved into a new place, as these things go. There's a lot of unfinished business, though, to do with previous things that have gone unresolved on this channel. My final parting thoughts about the old house and the entire experience of the last year. I'm gonna have to take care of all this unfinished business in episode 2 of the GEKKO estate. Unfinished business! Baby, this burger is like really like... It's like really like pretty rare.
Do you want me to cook it again?
I don't know. It tastes good.
I could make it darker.
Do you think it's too bloody?
It's just, you know, we can cook it again. I don't think
Just
it's...
let me know if you think it's too bloody.
I'll cook it again. It's fine. I didn't
No,
realize...
I mean if you
oh
think
my
it's
God.
not too bloody.
I mean, it's bloody, but like, I don't think it's like raw. I think it's just a bloody burger.
Okay, I will eat it then. It is soaking through the bun.
I'll cook it some more. If you don't like it that raw...
No, I like it.
I think it tastes good. I just, like, I didn't realize how thick they were. So, like, they're a little... They're just bloody. It's fine.
I just want your confirmation. That's all.
I've
like
eaten
the taste.
pinker burgers.
Okay. Welcome.